Part 4. The Aries Job. Success is a tricky thing in shadow running. Cat called what happened in Redmond a success. JT preferred a different term. A cluster frag. That half-torched kitten nearly got our hoops shot off. Yet here we are again. New stakeout and same fraggin' kitten. JT ran his hands through his hair in frustration. He was going after the ganger. Besides, what do we know? Maybe it was an elf that burned him. Cat jumped to her kitten's defense. Well, we know that I got shot, and somehow you developed a plan to get us out of that debacle. I still don't recognize how that is supposed to help us here. He made a series of irritated, scoffing noises. Here meant south downtown just after nightfall. The skies were purple with the glow of Seattle's neon underbelly. A thick sheaf of clouds promised rain but offered only gloom. Cat's crew waited in the back of a GMC step van parked along a row of cars and trucks on a block of houses and storefronts. One storefront, DLC Services, garnered the crew's attention. According to the public matrix, Darren L. Carlisle Management Services coordinates construction and corporate expansion for local businesses. However, Cat's Decker friends over at Dump Shock knew it as an off-the-books transfer station for the Aries Corporation. Aries used DLC as a way to legally obtain profit off of goods they'd already sold. They kept the office in the low-security neighborhood of Tukwila because the residents knew better than to ask any questions. Cat stroked Fluff's charred fur. They'll be expecting a transfer. If we're smooth about it, we can make it. Kitsune sighed. Yeah, but they'll be expecting elves, and I don't have the magic to fool them. It's a closed system. You can't get in unless you are already inside Aries. Us lowly Deckers have ways to sleaze it. So you need to trust me on this. If you and JT can take out the patrol, it will give us enough time to get the goods and get out. And if it goes wrong, I'm supposed to rely on a shaman to drive us out of here. JT spat out "if" like a jailhouse swear. Or maybe the Fleabag Cat will take over and drive us home. They don't just give away dock wagon memberships, Cat. Mine isn't even fully paid up. We need a rigger. A rigger means splitting the take 4 ways instead of 3. For now, Kitsune can drive. Besides, if we do this right, there won't be a shot fired. JT snorted. If. The DLC building butted up against an alleyway that concealed the entrance to an underground garage. The guns were down there somewhere. Cat didn't think they'd have too much trouble getting to them. Knight-Errant had only provided a dozen or so guards inside, relying on security cameras and an alarm system to keep them informed. Because the system wasn't connected to the outside world, Knight-Errant thought it'd stave off the Deckers. It wouldn't. The 3 Shadowrunners climbed out of the van. Cat crept ahead and jacked into a service panel by the building's entrance. It took her a few seconds to disable the alarm and loop old camera footage of the alley and the underground parking structure. All that was left was a pair of guards patrolling the perimeter. Through the camera's eyes, Cat could see them approaching. Okay, Kitsune, it's your show now. In her slaved camera, Cat watched the shaman raise her hands as a light mist and fog began to rise up from the ground. The closer of the 2 guards was the first to notice. He motioned to his partner, and they moved with caution toward the mouth of the alley, drawing their weapons. Kitsune stepped out from behind the corner, with her hands now buried in the pockets of her long coat. She stared at the 2 men, whispered a phrase in her native tongue, and both toppled to the ground as her stun ball hit home. JT hopped into the driver's seat and maneuvered the van down the narrow alley. Cat raised the security gate, then jacked out and hurried after her crew. The underground garage took up the entire footprint of the building. At the north end, they could see a small security office near a row of shipping containers. Cat rubbed a patch of soft fur under Fluff's chin and told her to stay in the van. Fluff appeared indignant. Cat ignored her and joined her companions in front of the security office, apparently manned only during the day shift. "So what now?" JT demanded. "We dig through the containers until we find one full of guns? How long do you think it'll be before the guys outside wake up, or someone wanders down here on a sweep?"
"Trust me, JT. They were expecting company later tonight, not now. We've got a while before the exchange. Relax. This place'll be empty for a while." The door to the security office wasn't locked. Cat sat down behind the desk and jacked into the computer. Too easy. She quickly identified which container held the guns. It was mag-locked, but after some digging she found the passcode, as well as something just as interesting. A small bit of pay data listing the location of similar DLC containers stored throughout the city. She filed this away for later and told her crew what to do. They backed the van up to the cargo container while Cat popped it open. It felt like her birthday. There were a dozen crates of Ares Alpha assault rifles, ammunition, and several other goodies. "Let's not get greedy, folks. Take what you can and move fast."
Cat settled on a silver briefcase setting on a shipping crate in the back of the container. She opened it and motioned for the others to come over to see. JT's eyes widened. "Is that what I think it is?" A smile spread across Cat's face, replaced quickly by a look of determination. "Let's not get distracted. We've got to get these crates out of here." She nodded toward Kitsune. Sometimes Kitsune seemed so much like her fox, her spirit totem. The likeness manifested itself in her darting glances or the occasional twitch of her nose. She moved weapon crates from the shipping container to the van slowly, occasionally rubbing a spot behind her ears. Cat couldn't help but notice the change in her friend's demeanor. "What's on your mind?"
I just...
Kitsune's words seemed heavy.
I keep thinking that there is something we're missing. Ateen hires a couple of elven hitters through a fixer in order to take out a Nan tribesman who doesn't appreciate the dragon nosing around tribal business?
Cat and JT shrugged. It didn't sound like anything out of the ordinary.
What really bothers me is that I've never heard about Ateen having a stake in tribal matters. I'm no elder, but I think I'm close enough to members of the tribes to know if something like that was going on.
JT grunted as he heaved a particularly dense crate into the van. "Kitsune might be onto something here. What's to say Ateen is involved in this at all?"
Cat said, "No, I can feel that dragon's footprint on this. When you've been on something's snack plate, it leaves an impression."
Fluff mewled. Cat went over to see what was the matter. The kitten seemed riveted on a spot just out of view. She produced another mewl.
"What's wrong, kitty? You see a mouse?"
Fluff rose up on her haunches and leapt swiftly out of the van.
"Crap! Not again!"
Cat chased after Fluff, yelling for her to stop. Just as Fluff was in her reach, Cat's pursuit was interrupted by the sight of the then security cruiser, headlights off, rolling down the ramp into the garage. "Drak!" She spat and doubled back, all thoughts of stealth extinguished. As she ran back to the van, Cat yelled to Kitsune and JT, "We're blown! Get in the van!" Kitsune growled something under her breath as she climbed into the driver's seat and started the van. JT tossed the case he was carrying into the back seat and climbed in after it. Fluff was padding proudly back toward them, a limp mouse trapped between her jaws. Cat managed to snatch her up just as Kitsune got the van moving. We've got too much gear back here to outrun them, JT cried.
Quiet, JT. Kitsune needed to concentrate. Knight Errant's security cruiser was out of position. Kitsune muscled the van past it and thundered up the ramp and out into the alley. A second cruiser stuck its nose into the alley, hoping to deter the runners. It didn't. Kitsune's van crunched the hood of the cruiser, stalled for a moment, and then kept going. Sirens followed. The van was slow and moved even more sluggishly in the hands of the shaman. Kitsune made as sharp a left turn as possible, accelerated for 3 blocks, then wrenched the wheel right again.
They're gaining!
Quiet, JT! Kitsune was losing patience. The back window shattered, followed by the heavy whump-whump of an Ares-mounted machine gun. JT let out a small whimper. Something struck the rear wheel and suddenly they were airborne. The van came down on its side, throwing Cat and JT around the rear cabin. It took several seconds for the 3 to orient themselves. Outside the van, a pair of security cars squealed to a stop. Kitsune, give us some cover. JT, grab whatever you can. As before, Kitsune cast her mist spell. This time it was much more powerful. The area quickly became thick with a dense, obfuscating sheen of vapor. Kitsune staggered as the force of the spell really affected her. Cat fumbled around in the magical fog until her fingers closed on a briefcase. Fluff emitted a desperate whimper, and Cat scooped her up with another arm and started to run. She took one last look at the van. We really do need a rigger,